All right, is everybody ready to go? So we are on the record in the Colorado Public Utilities Commission's proceeding number 23A-0552C-EXT. My name is Connor Farley. I am the administrative law judge assigned to this proceeding. It is approximately 9:05 a.m. on June 26, 2024, and this evidentiary hearing is being webcast. This hearing was scheduled in decision number R24-0297-I, dated May 7th, 2024. Actually, a continued hearing. It first took place on May 1st, 2024, but was continued to today at the request of the applicant, and after the applicant had waived the statutory deadline that applies to the application in this proceeding. So I will take appearances, starting with the applicant.
Good morning, Honor. Christopher Carr, registration 32239, appearing on behalf of the applicant 303 Party Bus, LLC.
Thank you and welcome. And the intervener?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Roman Lysenko. I can spell last name Lysenko, and I represent Explorer Tours or Red Rocks Shuttle.
Okay, thank you for that. And as you're all aware, and as I stated, this proceeding is being webcast, so it's important for all of us to speak into microphones when we're speaking on the record today. And you've all figured this out, but I'll just state it for everybody's benefit. The microphones turn on with a button at the base, and you'll know they're on when the green light illuminates. So thank you for that. Mr. Lysenko, at the first hearing here, I went through a series of questions with you about whether you could represent Explorer Tours here today. Has anything changed?
Nothing changed.
Okay. I'm going to continue to allow you to represent Explorer Tours, but as we talked about last time, that means that you're not going to be held to a lower standard in terms of the evidentiary and procedural rules here. So I just want you to understand that. Do you continue to understand that?
Yes, I do.
And the other thing is I'm not going to be able to give you any legal advice. Understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Lysenko. So you both have filed updated witness and exhibit lists and marked exhibits. Thank you for doing that. Let me just ask the applicant, how many witnesses do you anticipate testifying today?
Your Honor, we anticipate 5. On our list, Mr. John Kaufman, Ms. Suzanne Kaufman, and Corey Ayotte are not going to be present today.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Lysenko, are you going to be the sole witness for the intervener?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So let me just tell you, planning-wise, we have another hearing. It's a regular hearing that we do here at the Commission that's going to take place over the lunch hour. We're going to take a little bit of an early lunch hour starting at about 11 o'clock. It's not clear how long that hearing is going to take. The 15 to 20 minutes could be a bit longer, so we're all going to have to just play it by ear. So I just want you all to know that for preparation purposes. So do the parties, well, the last time we did this, I went through for the benefit of both parties since they were unrepresented, how the hearing here today would play out. Mr. Lysenko, you've been here a few times. I'm assuming you don't need me to cover that summary again. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So let me ask the parties whether you'd like to make an opening statement here today. They're not always required here. We hear a lot of these kinds of hearings. The issues are fairly straightforward, but you're welcome to make an opening statement if you'd like. So I'll ask the applicant first.
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Okay. And I'm assuming, Mr. Lysenko, that you'd at least like to reserve the right to make an opening statement in response?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So with that, let me ask both parties, is there anything that any questions that you have that you'd like me to address before we get into the to the opening statements and then the presentation of evidence? I'll turn to you, Mr. Carr.
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So with that, I'll turn to you, Mr. Carr, to make your opening statement.
And just procedurally, I assume because the microphone's here and there's not one on the podium, you want everything from here. Is that correct? That
is just fine. Yes.
Didn't want to disrespect the court by not standing.
And I understand, and it's fine for everybody to remain seated here today. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I obviously wasn't here at the last beginning portion of the hearing. I have been informed as to what occurred to some degree, but just in a brief opening, I would just like to let Your Honor know that obviously 303 Party Bus LLC is here on their application to extend our authority through the elimination of some restrictions that are on their current permit. The evidence we believe will show that 303 Party Bus has proper financial, managerial, and operational fitness to conduct proposed operations, and that granting this authority is within the public interest, that the existing services are inadequate, and that public convenience and necessity demand this service. And essentially, our position is that we've been in operation for approximately 10 years. Our own customers, as well as the experiences we've had while running this operation, have shown us there is a greater need for additional services. We're trying to extend our authority by eliminating the restrictions so that we can meet that need and help our existing customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Lysenko?
Yes, Your Honor, I have nothing to say. Good, thank you.
Okay.
No opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Lysenko. So, Mr. Carr, you may call your first witness.
We call Amanda.
Please come up, and you're going to be seated here. Before you do sit, just face me and raise your right hand and answer the following question. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Great, thank you. So please be seated. When you are situated and ready to go, please press the button at the base of the microphone in front of you and state your name for the record and spell it as well.
Amanda Mikulinich, AMANDA MICULINICH.
You may proceed, Mr. Carr.
Ms. Mikulinich, how are you associated with the applicant 303 Party Bus LLC?
I work for them.
Okay. How long have you worked for them?
It'll be 7 years in August.
And what do you do for them?
I drive a party bus. Drive customers around to concerts, different venues, whatever.
And have you been a driver for the entire 7 years that you've worked with them?
Yes.
And is this your only job?
No.
And is this a full-time job?
Sometimes.
And you said you drive a party bus for them. What is a party bus?
So it's basically just like a bigger vehicle as far as like a limo. So it doesn't have charter seats. It has minimal seats inside. It's just a bigger vehicle with lights, music, built-in bar.
And you drive people to events, typically, is that correct?
Yes.
And what type of events?
Weddings, concerts, baseball games, football games, bachelor parties, birthday parties, proms.
And when you drive people, let's talk about Red Rocks. I think that's one of the main issues in this case today. What do you do when you take a group to Red Rocks?
I take them to the venue. Sometimes we take them to the top and drop them off. Sometimes they like to tailgate down at the parking lot.
When they like to tailgate, what happens? What do you do?
I park the bus and leave the bus on because they want to hear the music and whatnot. Sometimes, most times I go out and take a picture of them. They want a picture at the Red Rocks or inside the bus. Let them listen to their music. They drink their drinks and socialize.
How many of the groups like to take pictures inside the bus?
All of them.
And have you ever driven for anybody else before?
Not here in Colorado, no.
How about anywhere else?
In Illinois.
And did you drive more of a charter type bus there?
Yes, school bus.
And did people want to take pictures inside the bus when you did that?
No.
Is this a different type of experience or vibe than the charter bus system?
Completely different.
Okay. And what are the differences?
So in this type of a party bus, it's more where, like I said, like a limo, where you're able to interact with each other, facing each other, not just facing forward, going like, I don't know, like on a up in the mountains for a tour or different scenery or whatnot. More socializing together.
And when groups go to Red Rocks, they tailgate, then they go to the concert. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what about after the concert? What happens?
They have to come back down to us. I usually stand outside of my bus just so that they can see me, because sometimes there can be 10 buses, there can be 50 buses. It just depends on the venue and who's playing. And then they come back on the bus and turn the music back on and get ready for the ride home.
Are they typically excited to see you when they come back out, or are they bummed out that they have to get on a bus?
No, 90% of the time I get hugged by my people.
Prior to starting your run, do you do anything to make contact with your customers?
I call them, or I try calling them first. If they don't answer, then I send them a text just introducing myself, verifying the pickup, the time, where we're going, the address, and then ask them if they have any questions, let them know what they're allowed to bring on the bus, what we bring on the bus for them.
When does that contact take place?
At least 24 hours in advance, if not longer.
And is that part of your training and experience from 303 Party Bus as something to do?
Yes.
But when you're driving the bus, have you ever had any mechanical issues or problems with the buses?
Not really. I mean, maybe once in here and there, overheating or something. But we have a mechanic that we're able to call, and he comes out right away if we need anything to look at.
Are the buses well maintained?
Yes.
Have a particular license in order to be able to drive them?
Yes.
What license do you have?
I have a CDL-B air brakes with passenger endorsement.
And have you ever been in a situation where you didn't feel that one of the vehicles that they asked you to drive was safe?
No.
And were there certain considerations that you had based upon your licensing when you were looking for a driving job?
So I take my CDL very highly as far as wanting to be compliant. And when I applied for 303, I asked, as far as questions, as far as PUC licensing, the DOT, the inspections, getting drug tested. I wanted to make sure that I was working for a company that stays compliant with whatever you need to do for your license and whatnot.
Have you ever noticed anything wrong with one of the buses and asked to have it fixed and were told deal with it, or we won't fix it, or we can't afford that, or anything like that?
No.
Anything that you've ever found, has it been repaired in a timely fashion?
Yes.
Have you ever had repeat customers?
A lot.
Do you recognize them, and do they recognize you?
Yes.
Do any of them tell you why they came back?
Because they had a great time the first time, and they love the experience.
How about after a concert at Red Rocks? What's the scene like?
Crazy. So there's just lots of, like I said, it could be 10 buses or 50 buses. There's tons of cars, obviously. And it's just all these people walking down to try to find their buses. A lot of times they don't know where their buses are. And it's, some of us drivers know each other. So if I see a bus, I'll be like, well, your bus is over there. A lot of times you have people that ask for a ride back to Denver because the Uber is too expensive, or they can't find their bus or their ride or whatnot.
Can you see the Uber and Lyft line from where you're at?
Yes.
And is it excessive?
Yes.
And you said you've had people come and ask you from that line if they can get a ride instead?
Yes.
And what's your response?
Typically no, because obviously, other people had rented out the bus or whatnot, and we can't just bring people on. Sometimes the people that rented the bus will say it's okay to give this person a ride and tell them where they're going to be dropped off, and then they can try to get an Uber from there.
And would you say that there's more people trying to get rides than there's rides available after most concerts at Red Rocks?
Most times, yes.
And traffic-wise, is it with the cars that are there, not the buses necessarily? Is it light? Is it heavy? Is it easy? Is it hard to get in and out?
It's heavy. There's a lot of cars.
How about the process that you have with your customers coming from 303? Is it smooth? Does the operation run well?
Yes.
Have you ever had problems with people not knowing where to meet you or what to do or anything like that?
No.
You ever had complaints from people that said it was really difficult to get my ticket and find you guys or to get here?
No, not with me.
How would you say that the company is run?
Very well, actually. I see a lot of different buses and whatnot at Red Rocks and all the events. Ours is pretty smooth. They like to make sure that everything is safety-wise. That's our number one concern as far as being safety. Having the DOT inspections, the mechanic on hand, I love that because I know there might be some other companies that have a mechanic, but not all of them.
Talk about the mechanic on hand. What's his name?
Isaac.
Accessible by you, or do you have to go through the company, or how do you deal with issues?
I can call him directly.
And is he responsive?
Yes.
And is he able to fix things?
Yes.
And what if he's not?
If he's not, then he'll bring it to another place. I can't think of the name of it right now, but another place where outside of his hands that he can't do.
So everything can be covered one way or another, either through him in-house or through some out-of-house service?
Yes.
Obviously, you're an employee of 303 Party Bus. Were you told you had to be here to testify today?
No.
Were you compensated in any way for your testimony here today?
No.
Hey, 1 second, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just a couple more follow-ups about the repairs and maintenance with Isaac. If you had a problem with the bus and you didn't feel it was safe to go forward, what would you do?
I wouldn't drive it.
Would you call Isaac?
I would.
And what does he do to help you?
He usually just comes to wherever we are if he needs to be. Sometimes if it's something that he's not going to be able to fix right then and there because maybe we have to get the customer to wherever they're going, he'll bring us another bus or have somebody else bring us a bus.
So there's a backup plan in place so that people don't get stuck somewhere?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lysenko, cross-examination.
Your Honor. Ms. McClinic, am I correct? Did I say it right?
It's okay. You can say Amanda. Yeah.
Amanda. Okay. This is Amanda. So please state any familiar friendship relationship with you and Mr. Casillas, other than business relationship.
I don't really have another relationship.
Can you call him a friend?
Yeah, probably.
But
we don't hang out or anything.
You mentioned that you work sometimes full-time. Is it the part-time job? You mentioned that sometimes it is full-time. What does it mean? Can you clarify?
So we have quite a few drivers. Sometimes, there's more contracts than not. So sometimes I can drive 2 times a week. Sometimes I can drive 6 times a week. It just really depends on what's going on and how many buses are rented out.
Do you understand the difference between private car service and the public shuttle?
I do.
Have you been driving private parties before for 303 or unrelated customers as well?
And I'm not sure. I'm understanding what you mean.
So there is two types of licenses. There is luxury limousine license when you gather and drive one group, and you've got one point of contact for the whole group, and they all related customers. So they all know each other due to work, their friends or family. And there is a public shuttle. When you gather in 20, 25 people, random people, they just buy on a per-seat basis. And do you know if you've always been driving private parties? Did you ever drive for random people in your bus, not unrelated customers? Did you ever drive?
I've done both.
You've done both. Did you ever drive? Did you ever pick up from Recess Beer Garden?
Yes.
Did they? How the pickup works? Can you just explain, please? What did you do at the beer garden? Have you contacted customers? Can you tell us a little more about the pickup?
I have to. There's like a mass text or a mass email, letting them know what the specials are at the bar, what time the meetup is, where the bus will be, and then I'm there to check their tickets, and then take them to Red Rocks.
So, how many? So there were individual tickets for the shuttle. Am I correct?
Yes.
Got it. If application is granted, will you be driving those shuttles as well for 303 party bus?
Yes.
Do you work on commission rate or hourly rate?
I'm going to overrule and allow it. Please answer.
So I'm 1099. So it's usually a percentage. I don't know if that answers you.
Yes, and basically, how much do you get paid for the Red Rocks trip?
Objection.
I'm going to overrule and allow it, but I'm having a hard time also understanding the relevance. So, but go ahead and answer if you can.
So for the Red Rocks ones, I get a flat rate, depending on how many people ride. And then I also, of course, get tips.
Makes sense. Do you expect, if application is granted and 303 party bus will start providing shuttle service, do you expect drive more to Red Rocks than you do right now? You mentioned that some days you drive 2 days, some days slower than the other ones. Would you expect it work often?
Yes.
What parking lot do you usually park at Red Rocks?
Lower South Lot 2.
Did you ever come up to the up circle?
To drop off, yes.
Drop off. Did you see motor coaches on the left at the Upper North parking lot?
Like Sprinter vans?
No, motor coaches. Sprinter vans on the Lima line
Oh.
coming up on the right side, on the left side on the Upper North motor coaches.
Yes.
How many on a busy night can you see motor coaches?
6 maybe? 4? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the big buses that park in that parking
Yes,
lot? On the
motor
left?
coaches.
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me just advise Mr. Lysenko, let her finish her answers before you jump in. Talking over top of each other creates problems for getting an accurate transcript. Wiesenthal will not appreciate it for good reasons. So.
Sure, we'll do you honor. I'm done, Your Honor. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. And I don't have any questions for you, Ms. Lynch. Hopefully I got that right. Not even close?
No.
Sorry.
Okay.
In any event, your testimony, well, let me turn back to Mr. Carr. Do you have any?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Okay. So thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it very much, and you may step down. And let me just say to everybody in the room, if I mispronounce a name or use an improper gender, I apologize and mean no offense. Just please try to correct me, and after that, I will do my best. With that, I apologize to you again for getting your name wrong. But let me turn to Mr. Carr, and you may call your next witness.
We'd call Don Van Gilder.
Please come forward, and before you are seated in the witness box, yes, answer the following question, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please be seated, and when you're situated and ready, make sure that the microphone in front of you has an illuminated button at the base.
It does, Your Honor.
Great. So go ahead and please state your name and then spell your name for the record.
Donald Taylor Van Gilder. It's DONALDTAYLOR VANGILDER.
Very much for that. And Mr. Carr, you may proceed.
Mr. Van Gilder, how are you associated with the applicant 303 Party Bus LLC?
I occasionally drive party buses for the company. Yeah, I've been doing it. I think this is now starting my third summer.
So you've been basically two full years you've been driving buses for them?
It's getting close to that, I think, yes.
And what type of bus do you drive for them?
It varies. I mean, Evelyn likes to put me on the large buses when needed, but I also, I've driven everything from the Sprinter all the way up to the bigger buses.
And the buses are all considered party buses, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you have a different definition? I think you were present when Miss Amanda testified.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a different definition, or do you agree with what her definition of a party bus is?
Yeah, it's as opposed to a school bus type bus or a charter bus where everybody's sitting in one seat facing forward. We don't have any of those. Ours are all, we're sitting around. You can communicate and socialize with the other people on the bus. And
in your estimation, is that a more social or a less social way to travel than a charter bus?
It's way more social.
And I just want to warn you to make sure you wait till I finish so that the
yes,
recorder doesn't explode trying to type you and me at the same
time. Yep. Sorry about that.
Do you often make trips to Red Rocks as well for 303 Party Bus?
That's probably the venue I've driven to the most is Red Rocks.
And since you have a different perspective because you're a different person, what do you do when you drive to Red Rocks?
I get the trip sheet from Evelyn. I look at it, and if I have any questions right then, I'll ask her. If not, then I will communicate with the person who signed up for the bus. I always do that. Sometimes it's 72 hours in advance. It's always at least 24 hours in advance. Make sure we're all on the same page. They appreciate that I've reached out. I show up at the location desired, usually try to get there about 10 minutes early. They can get on the bus whenever they feel like it because they booked it, and then drive them to Red Rocks. I always give them the option of, most of the time I give them the option of do they want to tailgate prior to the event. If we're tailgating, I park the bus in lower South Lot 2 where the buses are required to be. And then they walk up to the show, and they come down from the show afterwards. Sometimes I will drive them up to the top circle lot and drop them off, and then I will drive the bus down to lower South Lot 2 and shoot the person a picture of where the bus is going to be, give them a really good idea. And then I've got a little battery-powered disco light that I stick on the dash. I've also got a crazy white fuzzy hat that I stick on the side view mirror so that it's easier for them to find me after the show. And then they usually make it down to the bus 20 to 30 minutes after the show ends. And then when everybody's on board, we get in the line with everybody else going down into Morrison.
Okay. particularly after the shows, what's the scene like? Is it busy? Is it boring? I'm sure it depends.
It ain't boring. Sorry, I interrupted again. So it's not boring. It can be very crowded depending on the show. Case in point, Sunday night, I drove to Red Rocks for Widespread Panic. It was one of the busier shows I've driven. Lots of people coming and asking me if I've got space on my bus. A lot of people walking down the road down to Morrison, which could be a little dangerous. Lots of people looking for buses.
So would you say the demand that was in excess of the supply for buses and transportation?
Without a doubt.
And that's on Sunday. Does that happen on a fairly regular basis at Red Rocks?
I see people walking down that road pretty often down to Morrison. Oftentimes sticking their hand out like they're trying to hitchhike. It was more so this past Sunday night, but I see it pretty regularly.
And what about the rideshare lines, Uber and Lyft and things like that? Can you see those?
Oh, they're very long, and yeah.
Have you ever had people come out of that line to try to come ask you for a ride?
I've had people, as you know, I'm walking around the parking lot and I'll have people asking me, or if I'm standing in front of my bus, I'll have people ask me if I've got room on my bus to give them a ride back to Denver. They don't even care where I'm going in Denver. They just want a ride back. They want to get a ride away from Red Rocks.
And on a percentage of time, how often does that happen when you're up there?
I don't think I've ever not been asked by someone if I can get my ride back to Denver.
What about other venues? Did you ever drive to Empower Field?
Yes, I drove there I think the last time I drove there was when Army played Air Force football in November.
And when you're there, does it appear that the same, that the demand for rides outstrips the supply?
I haven't driven there very often. It seems like when I do drive there, it's typically, a group has chartered a bus and that group is going there. I don't see a lot of stragglers at Empower.
But on a regular basis at Red Rocks you do?
Oh, every single time.
How about the way 303 Party Bus runs their business? Would you say it's a smooth operation? Does it run well?
Very smooth.
And you heard Miss Amanda testify about maintenance issues and things like that. How do you feel that the buses are maintained?
I think they're maintained very well. If I'm a pretty mechanical person by nature, I could do a lot myself if needed. But if there ever was a problem, I would contact Isaac and maybe get his input or ask for his help.
Have you ever felt unsafe, or that one of the vehicles you were driving wasn't safe for its passengers?
No, if I ever did, I wouldn't drive passengers in it.
Have you ever noticed something wrong and asked for it to be fixed and been told you couldn't, or to wait, or to hold off, or anything like that?
Never.
I have 1 second, Your Honor.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for Mr. Van Gilder.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carr and Mr. Lysenko.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Van Gilder, could you please state any familial friendship relationship other than business relationship with Mr. Casillas?
I've known Mr. Casillas for maybe 10 years, and we met through mutual friends. I also live next door to him, which about 100 yards from Recess.
All right. Can you call him a friend?
I can call him a friend, yes.
Neighbor, friend.
Neighbor, but when I'm driving, he's my boss.
Let me ask a couple other questions. Mr. Carr probably forgot to ask. Has the applicant, Mr. Casillas, provided or promised to provide, including promises to provide anything in value, including but not limited money, real estate, personal property, or business referrals, or anything to you for this testimony?
No, he is not. I'm here of my own free will, and yeah, he's not offered me any type of compensation for my testimony.
Do you understand the difference between private car and the public shuttle?
I assume I don't understand why you're asking that question, or what exactly you're getting at there.
I just asked the question. Do you understand the difference? You operate in transportation field as a driver.
Right. I don't operate a private car. I mean, I would assume by private car you mean a limo.
Party bus.
A party bus. Okay. I do drive. I have driven both. I've only driven buses. I've never driven a limo. I've driven groups that were, one person signed up, contracted with the company, and the whole group is through that one person. I've also driven, I haven't this summer, but last summer I did drive recess with individuals.
Individuals. Did they all show up with individual tickets? Well, per group or per couple or per person?
They had all paid a individual. They didn't have an actual ticket, but I had a list of folks that had paid for entry onto the bus.
And do you work part-time or full-time?
All part-time. Part-time for 303.
Makes sense. If application is granted, will you be driving shuttles to Red Rocks?
I don't know. So far, I haven't driven. Well, I've driven groups up to Red Rocks so far this year. I have not done the trips from recess with individual tickets. I have not done that this year. I don't know if I would be doing that after if no matter which way the court rules on this.
And where do you park at the Red Rocks?
We have to park the buses in Lower South Lot too. Have to.
Did you ever come up to the top circle?
Yes.
Did you see
for drop-offs before the show, and never go up there after?
Makes sense. Did you see motor coaches on Upper North parking lot?
When you say motor coaches, are you talking about like Sprinter-sized vehicles or longer?
Buses, 56-passenger motor coach buses.
Yes, there are not in the top circle lot, but in the big parking lot that's just
Upper North.
Upper North. Yes, I had seen those buses up there.
How many motor coaches would you see on a busy day, busy night?
I'm focused on driving, so I'm not counting, but yeah, my guess would be at most 6 to 10.
Makes sense. I'm done, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lysenko. Mr. Van Gilder, thank you for your testimony. I just have a few clarifying questions. On at least a couple of occasions during your testimony, you referenced recess.
That's Recess Beer Garden.
And what is the location of that, if you know the address?
I don't know the exact number, but it's located on Erie Street between 17th and I don't know. It's within about 100. It's within, I'd say, 50 yards of the corner of Erie and 17th.
Great, thank you. You also, in your direct testimony, talked about operating a party bus to Empower Field. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I think you testified the effect that, or I think you used the word that you have not experienced stragglers at Empower Field. Do you remember that?
I personally have not, because I've only driven groups of people where everybody was part of one group. So I haven't been paying attention to anybody who might be a straggler there.
So what do you mean by straggler?
Oh, someone like up at Red Rocks, if after the show, someone, maybe had a little bit too much to drink and looking for a ride out of there. I have not experienced, I experienced that a lot at Red Rocks. I have not experienced that at all at Empower Field.
Okay, so you may not know the answer to this question, and please feel free to tell me you don't know. But these stragglers at Red Rocks, do you know typically how they got to Red Rocks for the event that was taking place?
No, sometimes people tell me that, they got an Uber up, but then they can't get an Uber back, or Uber/Lyft. Sometimes they tell me that. I'm guessing that's probably the majority of the time, because it's so easy to get an Uber or Lyft from down in Denver, but then it's really tough to get one home from Red Rocks. I'm guessing some of the times people might have driven their own vehicle out there and then thought it would not be a good idea to drive it home. But my guess would be that it's often they've gone out there either with a friend or Uber or Lyft, gone out there and then are struggling to find a way home.
Okay, so in that guess, that latter guess, where you're talking about people who did not drive their own vehicles there and for whatever reason are having difficulty getting a ride home, I think you testified that you've had conversations with people who have explained that to you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I have no further questions. Mr. Carr, if you have any redirect?
Just very brief. Mr. Van Gillier, when you were at the show on Sunday at Red Rocks, approximately how many people were there?
On my bus or at the
At Red
venue?
Rocks.
Oh, it was full. It was widespread panic played all 3 days, and they sell out every year. So what is it? A capacity of I think Red Rocks has a capacity of around 9,500 or 9,800 people.
Okay, and when you were there, it was full?
Yes, it was packed.
I think you testified that on a busy day, you'll see somewhere between maybe 6 and 10 coach buses of the top lot.
I don't know about typically. I don't always go to the top circle lot. When I do, I'm focused on driving. I'm not focused on how many buses are in that upper north lot, but it depends on the show, depends on, I don't know what to tell you as far as what an average is.
Are there enough buses there to bring 9,500 people?
Your Honor, objection. Call for speculation.
That's not speculation.
Well, hold on, Mr. Van Gelder. I'm going to overrule the objection. I'm going to allow the testimony. This is an administrative hearing. I'm going to attach the appropriate weight to testimony when I make my decision. So go ahead, Mr. Van Gelder.
My apologies, Your Honor. No, if I added up all the buses at Red Rocks, there wouldn't be enough to take care of half that number. I mean, probably not even a quarter or a third.
I have no further questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carr, and Mr. Van Gelder. Thank you very much for your testimony, and you may step down. Carr, you may call your next witness.
I'd call Blair Watkins.
Thank you. Mr. Watkins, welcome. Thank you for being here. Before you get seated, please face me, raise your right hand, and answer the following question. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Great, thank you. Please be seated. Make sure that the light at the base of the microphone is illuminated, and when you're ready to go, please state your name for the record and spell it for the record as well.
My name is Blair Watkins, Blair Watkins.
Sorry, you may proceed.
Mr. Watkins, what do you do for a living?
I own a party bus company in the Denver metro area called Elevate Rides.
How long have you owned your party bus company?
Officially started operating essentially January 1st, 2016.
So 8.5 years?
8.5 years.
Are you familiar with 303 Party Bus?
Yes, I'm very familiar with 303.
Okay. What type of license does Elevated Rides have?
We have a luxury limousine license.
With your luxury limousine license, what do you do?
We bring chartered groups to and from venues, weddings, birthdays, any activity where they would have an event where they would need a large vehicle to bring a large group of people.
And do you make mini runs to Red Rocks?
All the time. I would say it's 65 to 75% of our business.
Explain what happens up at Red Rocks when you make a run there.
Yeah, so where do I begin? So, it's essentially what we do when we bring groups up there. A lot of the groups will either tailgate or they want to get dropped off immediately and go right inside. So we do give them the option. We are, because of the size of our buses, we are actually allowed to drop them off at the top of the venue at the upper circle, so they can just go right inside if they don't want to hang out in the lot. And prior to going inside, if they do want to hang out in the lot, they're welcome to hang with the bus for a little bit, and then we'll drive them up to the top and drop them off and go in the venue. Obviously, they're allowed to leave anything on the vehicle. And oh, I'm sorry. Sure, I'll slow down here. They're welcome to hang out in the bus for a little bit, and then once they're ready to go inside, we will drop them off at the upper circle. It obviously limits the amount of walking that they need to do, as it is a pretty difficult venue for walking uphill. And then once the show ends, they have to come down to the lower South Lot 2 to pick up the bus, and then we drive them out of there.
So you're sort of a competitor with 303 Party Bus, is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
And you're here testifying on their behalf anyway?
100%.
When you're at Red Rocks, do you think that the need for public transportation or rides exceeds the supply?
1,000,000%, absolutely. The amount of people at a given show is usually, Red Rocks has become one of the most iconic venues in the world. It is almost always sold out for every single show. They have about 200 shows a year. I think last year they had 1.4 million attendees. As far as buses go, I drive often. I'm there multiple times a week, especially in the past 8 years I've been doing this. I used to drive 5 nights a week.
Slow down a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I used to drive 5 nights a week, and I still drive usually 2 nights a week, so I'm up there, very often. I see how much the dynamic has changed since COVID. For whatever reason, there's more cars there. It's gotten more popular. When I began driving, there wasn't even a lot called the Jurassic Lot, and now they have added a whole new parking lot at the venue, which is right by the entrance to the number 2 entrance below the box office, which is so far from the venue. And people have to park there and walk all the way up, which is absolutely insane. And the traffic has gotten out of control at the venue. There's so many more people now, and it's causing what I've noticed, accidents in the parking lots. There's more people walking on the roads, on these tight, dark roads down to either down all the way to that new parking lot or down to Morrison, which is extremely dangerous when you have 9,500 people coming out of a venue with thousands of vehicles. A lot of them are cars. You have Uber drivers that are not the best drivers, personally, but there's hundreds of people every show lining up for Ubers. Every single show. And they have to pick up in the lower South Lot 2 parking lot, which is where we are. So we see them for every single show. How many people are waiting for rides to get home at the end of the evening?
Have you ever had people waiting for rides come and ask you for a ride?
Oh, often. Absolutely. And, we obviously have to tell them, because I have a luxury limousine license, I'm sorry, this is a private group, can't help you, but, if you can find another company that's doing it, you know, you could try and ask them if you can get a ride out of there. But personally, just for research purposes, I've gone to shows and I've Ubered out of there or tried to Uber out of there. My wife and I even have left early for shows, and the Uber drivers will cancel on you if you leave early because they want to wait until the rates increase, and they will just keep canceling on you until the rates increase, until the show is over, and then they get a higher rate. So it can be really difficult for people to get out of the venue when they want to, and then they are then competing with all these hundreds of other people trying to get out of the venue, and it can be really difficult and really expensive for people, and it's really hard to get out of there if you don't have a committed ride.
When you've tried to Uber, what did it cost?
And I do check the Uber rates as often too when I'm there, just for my own personal research, even when I'm not Ubering, and it's usually around $100 just to leave the venue. So, you know, if you have two people, that's $50 a person just for a one-way, just to get out of there, and that's not even factoring in what they paid to get there.
How about timing? What's it take to get in there? How long do you have to wait?
I mean, my groups, you know, will take a while to get down to the bus, usually 30 to 40 minutes. You know, it could be, you know, about 40, 45 minutes before we actually depart the venue, and there's still hordes of people waiting. I mean, they could be there for an hour after the show. You know, it could be 1 a.m. before people get out of there, on a busy night.
Have you noticed other bus companies and other competition there in the lots?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are other companies there, but, you know, I believe, you know, from what I see, it's not that many. We're there often. Nick and Evelyn with 303 are there often. You know, Turtle Bus is there often. I mean, but there's, on a regular basis, there's not very many buses down there.
Do you believe that there's a need for additional service?
Absolutely. Just the sheer amount of people that are looking for rides at the end of the night. I mean, you have 95, 75, I think it's the number of people going to the venue almost every single night. It's almost sold out every single night. Tickets are so much harder to get nowadays. And, you know, when I do drive up to the top of the venue, because I do drop off my groups at the upper circle often, there are not many large charter buses there. I would say on average, there's 3. Maybe on a busy night, 5. That's it. And then there's the Sprinter vans, and those hold, 12, 14 people. So even if there's 5 charter buses up there, that's full. That you're 5 people times 5, you know, it's 275 people-ish. You know, the venue holds 9,500. You're not even, and then even if you include all of our buses, and we, you know, have 20 to 30 passenger buses, say there's on a busy night 30 of us down there, you're only still talking 3% of the entire venue that are able to get a ride out of there on a bus, and then the other 97% have to either drive or find another way out of there. Which, you know, if you're going to a show to enjoy yourself, you know, yes, I'm sure there's DDs, but we've seen some awful driving, you know, and 1 in 3 Colorado deaths are driving traffic deaths involve somebody impaired. And, you know, when you're going to a sporting event or a concert, I mean, most people know people are going to enjoy themselves.
Let me just interject. I apologize for interrupting. Let me just get some clarification.
Sure.
You just referenced DDs. I'm assuming that's drunk drivers?
Designated driver.
Designated drivers.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
Fantastic. And then in that last answer, you also referenced 95 or 75, referring to people. I'm assuming you mean 9,500?
Yeah, 9,575, I think is the number.
9,575.
575.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And let me just tell you, Mr. Watkins, I'm from the East Coast. I'm familiar with your pace of speaking.
Sorry. Philadelphia.
I'm from Philly, too.
Oh, all right.
But for Ms. Wiesenthal's sake, if you could try to slow down.
My apologies.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Mr. Carr, go ahead.
So from your last answer, I assume that you believe the existing service is inadequate. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Your Honor, objection. Also speculation.
I'm going to overrule and allow the testimony. Go ahead.
I believe with just looking at the numbers, and seeing how many buses are at the venue every night, especially, and I do ask my drivers when I'm not there, hey, how many vehicles are there tonight? So I do have a very strong idea every single night of how many vehicles are at the venue. And honestly, on a weekday night, there are no more, on a regular basis, on a weekday night, there's no more than 1 to 3 charter buses at the top of the venue. I see that with my own eyes. And then in the lower South Lot 2, there's maybe on a regular night 4 or 5 buses down there, and there's 9, and the cars are overflowing into the streets, and the parking lots are everywhere. And I just think people don't know they even have options, or even are realize there's no options in their neighborhood. Especially with how traffic has become in Denver, it's gotten, everybody knows traffic has gotten so out of control in our city. So people can't get to certain locations at rush hour. They need different options to be able to get to the venue. They can't all get to just Union Station or a hotel somewhere. They need different parts of the city that allow them, to have options to allow them to get to the venue. And, we need options, and especially different price points as well. Everyone has a different price point on what they're willing to spend. And they all don't want to spend $65, or $50, some, there's different price points. I mean, obviously we charge a flat rate, but when you break it down on my bus, if you break down the whole flat rate and they break it down per person with their group, when they max it out, it's only $55 a person, and that's a private service. Because for me, it's all about offering safe and reliable transportation. I want to be there for the community. I want them to feel like they're not breaking their wallet trying to get to a venue or a location safely, and that is a big that's the reason why I do this. My mission is to keep people safe, and they need to have options on the road.
And do you believe the reputation in the community is that 303 Party Bus also keeps people safe? Absolutely.
I know a lot of the businesses. I've been doing it for 8.5 years, and I tell my clients when I'm booked. I literally said it yesterday. There's only 2 companies that I trust in this city: 303 and NoCo Party Bus, as far as in the private luxury limousine sector. I don't trust anybody else with my clients because I just don't know how they operate. I do know how they operate, and I don't trust how they operate.
And have you referred work to 303 Party Bus before?
I literally did it yesterday.
Have they referred work back to you?
I would imagine.
And you're not being paid or compensated or promised referrals or anything like that for testifying?
Absolutely not. For me, again, it's all about the safety of our community. If we can have more options for people to get to and from and not feel like they have to drive, don't know how to get there, that's what it's all about for me.
I think you mentioned that your business drives obviously places other than just Red Rocks. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you been to other events that have similar problems?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, all large events have so many people driving to the venues, or people Ubering and needing to figure out a way to get out of there. The issue with Red Rocks is it's just far enough outside of the city where getting back is very difficult. Obviously, in Power Field, you're right next to the city. You could walk to the city if you had to in a reasonable time. So you don't see it as much with those venues, Coors Field and Power, because they're in the city. Red Rocks is far enough away where there's so many people trying to get home, and there's just not enough options.
What about Fiddler's Green? Do you ever go there?
Yep, I go to Fiddler's. Yep. Fiddler's has the light rail. So people do tend to take the light rail to and from the city. But there's still, obviously, it's a 20,000 person venue, and you're still south of the city. Light rail can be. I actually have ridden the light rail for the show. It's almost the same thing as Ubers. It just gets so crowded, and people are the platform is just crazy. So you might have to wait a while to get out of there. Whereas if you had a vehicle waiting for you, you could obviously then don't have to worry about it.
What I'm trying to ask you, I guess, is I think you testified that there's a need at Red Rocks for additional service. Do you believe there's a need throughout the metro area for additional service, or do you think there's just a need?
There's a need. I mean, our city's growing like crazy. There's a need really in this entire city. But you're asking, for me, there's never enough safe transportation, period. When I started this, I started it as a hobby, and it became personal. 3 days before I launched my business, I lost my best friend in a drunk driving accident. So it really gave me reason to really push my business and make it successful and have anybody else be successful, because it was one of the biggest pains of my entire life, and I would never want somebody else to go through that. So if I can have as many options as possible for people on the road where they don't feel like they have to drive, they can get to and from safely, I want that to happen, and I'm gonna push my competitors to do that as well.
And do you believe if this application were granted to extend 303 service, it would add additional public convenience?
Absolutely. There's such a need for it in this city. There's so many more people have moved to this city. So many more people need the options in different parts of the city to allow them to get to and from venues safely. Like, not everybody has a huge group. People want to go with just their wife or their friend, and there need to be more options at different price points and different types of options in various parts of the city. And there's just so many people looking for that. I get emails all the time about it. Hey, we only have 2 people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
May I have 1 second, Your Honor? I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Let me just ask a follow-up before Mr. Lysenko goes, so he gets to hear this. So, just for purposes of clarification, I think Mr. Carr asked whether there was a difference in need for additional transportation options between Red Rocks and other venues that you've testified about, like Empower, like Fiddler's Green. So is there a difference in need between Red Rocks on the one hand and the other venues?
Yes. If we're going to specifically say it like that, I appreciate you for clarifying. Red Rocks has a larger need because of where it's located, and it's just a much more difficult venue to get to and from than any of the other venues in the city.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Lysenko, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Watkins, can you call Mr. Casillas a friend?
We have a business relationship. We've actually never hung out as friends, ever.
Got it.
Yeah.
I have a luxury limousine license as well, and we're trying to skip the word competitor. We call each other affiliates. When can you call 303 Party Bus affiliate, not a competitor?
No, because affiliates give each other money, usually. We've never actually given each other money for working together. I've never once asked another competitor for money. I just give them the business because I feel that I'm not looking for money to help somebody get a safe ride. I just want them to have a safe ride. I've never once.
If your car breaks down, there is no other cars in your fleet available, who would you call on that night to rescue?
Yeah, I would either call them or NoCo Party Bus, one of the companies that I trust, but I give them the ride. They get the full ride. I don't take any money for it. I break down.
Can you tell if your business got busier after the COVID?
To get busier? Just like any business, you expect your business to grow. And every year, obviously, other than COVID, because we can only operate so much, my business has grown a percentage. That's business. So yes, it has grown. My business has grown every year.
Did you think that's because people now prefer private cars instead of public transportation?
No, I don't believe so. Our number of rides has grown a little bit because I believe that the city is growing. So it's more of a correlation between how many people live here and how many people need rides.
And you mentioned in your direct testimony that customers have to drive to Red Rocks and from Red Rocks, like they have no other choice. Did you ever think that they choose to drive to and from the Red Rocks, all those 97% or 95,000 that you mentioned before, maybe they choose to take the vehicle and for their convenience, to and back.
Sure, people could absolutely choose to drive to and from. From what we know from a lot of people, though, what we've talked to clients, and a lot of people just don't even know there's other options. That's the problem.
What makes you believe that those people would use 303 party bus service if application is granted?
Because they run a really good, reliable, successful service, and if people know that they have an option in their neighborhood, I would take that option. People don't want to drive most people don't want to drive if they don't have to a concert. I'm there all the time. I personally have been to over 250 rides. So I know what concert goers want and what they need, and I talk with them all the time. I do believe, yes, that more people do want to take a transportation option like 303 would offer.
Did you ever consider for yourself getting the public shuttle license, the common carrier license to do that?
I've considered it.
And why didn't you try to get it?
Honestly, looking at it, this is the politics behind it have always deterred me from moving forward. And I'm a sole business owner, and I don't have a lot of time to kind of move forward with it and deal with this. So it's kind of gotten put on the back burner for me.
Just question as a businessman, you probably get the math behind the third ticket basis. You mentioned that customers would appreciate the other option in their neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, let's take the Highlands Range neighborhood, single house.
Yep.
Would you set up a pickup point in Highlands Range for a public shuttle so people would get there from their houses to get to the Red Rocks? As a businessman, as your
Well, when I say neighborhoods,
plan.
I mean like neighborhoods. For me, I think it's the neighborhoods surrounding the Denver metro area, more like the Highlands or Uptown, or City Park, where there's a lot of neighborhoods where people it's convenient for people. Whereas, not everybody make it down to like the center of the city at rush hour. If you're coming from work, it's almost impossible. It takes me from my bus yard to get to like North Denver, and I'm only 6 miles away. It could take me 40 minutes during traffic to go 6 miles.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lysenko. I don't have any questions either. Mr. Watkins, I'll turn to Mr. Carr. See if you have any redirect.
Just briefly, Mr. Watkins, you testified, I think, pursuant to your Honor's question, that there's a larger need at Red Rocks than other places. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Is there still a need at those other places, just not as large, or is there no need at the other places?
Oh, there's a need for any large event. There's always thousands of people looking for a ride.
I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carr and Mr. Watkins. Thank you very much for your testimony. You may step down.
Thank you. Sorry for the speed talking.
Carr, you may call your next witness.
We call Evelyn Casillas.
Okay, thank you.
For timing purposes, Your Honor, we just have Evelyn and then Nick Casillas are the last two witnesses.
Okay. Welcome again, Ms. Casillas. Before you take the stand, please raise your right hand and answer the following questions. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Great. Thank you. Please be seated. Make sure the microphone is on, and when you're ready to go, please state your name and spell your name for the record.
Evelyn Casillas, Evelyn. Casillas is Casias.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Carr.
Yes, how are you associated with 303 Party Bus LLC?
I'm the general manager, operational manager.
What does that mean? What are your duties? What do you do?
I do reservations and sales. I do the administrative component. I do part of the recruitment for drivers. I don't do a whole lot of the training. We have someone else that does that. So I do most of all the financial end of the business and the administrative end of the business, and then the sales component.
And how long have you been doing this?
2015,
So almost since the inception of the company, correct?
correct.
When you do sales and scheduling, how does that work? Explain to me what happens when somebody wants a ride with 303 Party Bus.
They have two choices. Generally speaking, they'll send in an email request. I often follow up with all of those with a written response back to them, advising them of pricing and availability, and ask them to call the office to place the reservation. The other method that we get is just the phone calls, people calling and asking for availability for Party Bus.
And do you have many repeat customers?
Many, many, many repeat customers.
Have you ever had to deny somebody because, for any reason, that you couldn't give them a ride?
All of the time.
What are some reasons why you've had to tell people, I'm sorry, we can't help you?
No availability, no bus availability.
So you've been too full?
Too full, sold out.
And what about, have you been too busy?
In what regard to?
To have another run go somewhere else?
Yes, often.
Have you ever had to deny somebody because the ride that they wanted was outside the scope of your permit?
Yes.
What are some examples of that?
Mountain areas, primarily outerline areas.
How about any of the additional areas that you're asking for in your permit now? Have you ever had to deny people because you couldn't go there?
Yes, often. Colorado Springs, Pueblo, mountain areas, mostly.
And by being too full, it's because you have a limitation as to how many buses you can run on your permit, correct?
Correct.
And so one of the things you're trying to extend today is to allow for additional buses?
Yes.
And 303 Party Bus carries both a common carrier and a luxury limousine license, correct?
Yes.
Governor, may I approach?
May.
Yes, I'm handing what's been marked as, can you please take a look at that? Can you tell us what Exhibit 200 is?
Yes, it's the number of runs we've done per year to different venues.
Okay, and that's from 2021, 2022, 2023?
Correct.
And this lists both, for some, the runs, and for some, the revenue, is that correct?
Correct.
And so this shows with your current permit that you've made approximately 700, I apologize, 930 runs or so to Red Rocks in the last 3 years?
Yes. More than that, actually, probably.
I'm not the quickest with math, I apologize, I should have added it ahead of time. And does that, is Red Rocks one of the places that you've been able to, or had to deny work to because you were too full or you couldn't have additional buses go there?
That happens every day.
For every concert?
In Red Rocks, yes.
And this is both repeat customers and new customers that are finding you, calling, trying to find a ride?
Yes.
You also you said you do some of the finances with the company, is that correct?
Yes.
May I approach again?
May.
Can you tell us what that exhibit is?
Yes, this is our balance sheet for the year ending December 2023.
Is that the most recent balance sheet that you have of a snapshot of your company for?
Yes.
Do that on an annual basis for tax purposes and
Correct.
otherwise? And on this balance sheet, does it shows the amount of liabilities that the company has?
It does.
And it shows some credit card debt, is that correct?
It does.
And is the company able to obtain additional credit if necessary?
Yes.
It also shows the cash that the company has, correct?
Correct.
And is that amount a typical amount that the company is keeping in reserves?
Yes.
And that's so that the company can operate, and if there's problems, have the ability to meet those needs?
Yes.
And it also shows the assets, is that right?
Yes.
And that's a list of the different vehicles that 303 Party Bus currently owns?
Yes.
303 Party Bus LLCs, why you've been there, ever had a cash crunch or an inability to repair something or something like that because it didn't have the funds to do so?
Never.
Has 303 Party Bus ever not been able to write that? I apologize.
Let me just ask, while you're looking at your notes. So Exhibit 204, which is the balance sheet,
Okay.
consists of 5 pages. I have that right?
Yes. Yes.
And it looks to me like page 2 is a duplicate of page 1. Am I right about that?
No. Separate.
It's a separate page, but it's the same information, correct? I think I photocopied this incorrectly.
Oh,
I think
okay.
there's 2 page 1s and 2 page 2s, essentially.
And that's what I'm getting at. So page 2 is a duplicate of page 1, and page 4 duplicate of page 3, I believe.
I believe that's correct, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's my fault. I apologize for the confusion.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly.
No, I understand it as well.
So go ahead, Mr. Carr.
Ms. Casillas, operationally, how would you say that the company runs?
Very well.
And you work with Mr. Nick Casillas, correct?
I do.
And are you related to him?
He's my son.
So this is a sort of a family business, is that correct?
It became that, yes.
And you have not been promised anything or paid or otherwise to be present or testify today?
No.
And as to the management of the company, it sounds like you do a great deal of that.
I do.
And you've done so for approximately 9 years.
Okay. Approximately.
And throughout that 9 years, has there been any problems? Have you ever run into issues with the company where something needed to be done and it wasn't able to happen?
No.
And you mentioned that you don't do training. When you mentioned training, what do you mean by the training that you don't?
When drivers are hired, I initially was recruiting them and interviewing them, and then having our mechanic, shop manager, who's our dedicated shop mechanic, to train them in terms of the operational aspects of the buses and the safety requirements and all that kind of stuff that I'm not equipped. I don't have that knowledge. I do now, but I'm not a driver.
Okay. So you've learned through the process of what needs to happen, but you still refer to the expert to do it so that you can make sure everybody's trained properly.
As well, and also with Nick, who also is a CDL driver.
And you don't drive for the company, though,
No, I
correct?
don't.
if this permit were granted, and you were able to expand your service, do you believe that your company would be financially fit and able to cover that need?
Absolutely.
And do you believe you have the current equipment necessary in order to do that?
Yes, we do, although we would probably look at expansion.
But at least in the beginning, you would just utilize more of these vehicles at the same time?
Exactly.
And do you currently utilize both your luxury limousine permit and your common carrier for certain events?
Yes.
Have you also had other requests for things other than Red Rocks, let's say homecomings and proms, that you've been having issues with because of the way your permit?
Yes.
Can you explain those for the judge?
Generally speaking, it would be in terms of how to charge them, either a flat rate or a per person rate or an hourly rate.
Okay. And can you explain what the problem is? Do people want one or the other, and you're not able to do it based upon your permit?
Based upon the permit, there are some limitations. To get around the per person requirement that sometimes people ask for, I just give a flat rate and say, this is the rate. You figure out the per person cost.
And that's for instance, for a prom or something. We have a group of children that are going together, and they want to pay you each person, whatever, $50. And you can't do that with the way you're currently permitted for that event, correct?
Correct.
So, and let me just advise you, Ms. Casillas, that you have to provide yes or no answers. You can't answer with a or
Okay.
So 2 questions back, I believe you answered with a meaning yes. So in any event, that doesn't show up on a transcript. Hard to distinguish. So if I got that incorrect, please correct it, Mr. Carr.
I think we're correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
And while I was speaking, let me just say that at the end of the first part of this hearing on May 1st, there was a question asked about how to handle exhibits here today. I think the question was essentially there were 1 or more exhibits that were introduced at the last hearing, and just how essentially exhibits would be handled at this continued hearing. And I didn't give any final direction on that, so let me just say now that all exhibits that you want in the record need to be offered as exhibits. So with that, I will move on. I just wanted to make sure that I was not, my previous statements at the end of the hearing on May 1st was not influencing either of you in how you're handling exhibits. So.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I withdraw my no further questions and ask a few further foundational questions?
Yes, you may.
Ms. Casillas, Exhibit 200, that's in front of you, that's the point of sale exhibit. Where did those numbers come from?
Limo Anywhere is a software system I use for reservations and billing.
And did you prepare that document with that software?
Yes, I did.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of what was reflected in your software?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Exhibit 200.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor, no objection.
200 is admitted.
And Ms. Casillas, same on Exhibit 204, that's the balance sheet exhibit. Where did those numbers come from?
Our QuickBooks account.
Okay. And did you either print that out or move those numbers over without changing them?
Did not change anything.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of what your balance sheet was as of December 2023?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Exhibit 204 as well.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor, no objection.
Okay. 204 is admitted.
Now I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Lysenko, you may proceed with your cross-examination, if any.
Yes, Ms. Casillas, could you clarify, please? You mentioned in your direct testimony that you do sell out. How often does it happen?
Depends on the time of year. I would say anywhere from April through October.
And how many buses do you have?
We've grown to 10 buses.
The days when you sell out, are they happens more often after COVID?
Yes.
Did you ever sell on a per ticket basis tickets from Recess Beer Garden?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Are you asking if me personally or the
Yes,
company?
you said that you selling tickets over the phone, online. You manage the sales. Did you see sales from Beer Garden on a per ticket basis, per seat basis?
We have.
How much is the ticket?
I don't know the answer to that because I'm not directly involved in the pricing.
Okay, but you sell, you take orders, you take.
Right.
And if someone calls in and he says, I need 2 tickets from Recess Beer Garden,
I will usually refer those to Nick. The way you asked the question, did we do that? Yes. I would refer them to him.
do you know what common carrier license that you guys currently have? What address does it allow you to pick up from?
The current license allows us to pick up from certain areas in Denver, and it's very limited in terms of outside.
Do you know the I apologize, I'm sorry. Do you know the address? There is the address, starting point where you can pick up. That's the only address you can pick up and deliver to different locations with lots of restrictions. But do you know what's the address where you can pick up?
It was our storage facility on Beach Court.
Is the Recess Beer Garden have the same address?
No.
Do you know what's the address for Recess Beer Garden?
It's off of 17th Avenue or 16th.
Thank you, Ms. Casillas. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lisenko. Let me just ask you, Ms. Casillas. I think you said that in your CPCN, and referred to as a permit here, that you're required to pick up at 6232. Was it Beach Court?
Correct.
Is it Beach Court or is it Beach Street? Is there a difference? Do you know?
I don't know.
I think Mr. Lisenko asked you some questions about whether 303, the applicant here, sells out. Do you remember those questions?
I do.
And I think you said, but you tell me if my notes are wrong, that you sell out, typically you cited a time period, sounds like typically is when you sell out from, was it April to September?
Predominantly, that's our busiest time of the year.
And so was the end month September? I'm not sure I got that right.
And the end month would be annual, December, but the busiest times of the year are through October.
Through October, okay, great. And then, so during that period, April to October, busiest time of the year, how often, if you can characterize it, do you sell out, not have any capacity?
We sell out for other events as well, weddings and other modes of transportation, but the phones keep ringing looking for transportation for concerts. And so I try to be, I take reservations according to who calls and inquires first, and I often just get the phone still ringing, people looking for concerts. And that was part of why our growth took place to acquiring additional buses, was to accommodate that need.
Okay, so it sounds like, and I'm just going to characterize your testimony so that I understand it, that from April to October, when 303 sells out, it sounds like it predominantly sells out for concerts. Do I have that right? Okay.
That is correct.
And then do you, within that category of concerts from April to October, you primarily or predominantly sell out for concerts at Red Rocks versus other venues, or is that not accurate?
Red Rocks gets approximately 60 to 65% of our concert business.
Okay. So are you saying that you sell out? It sounds like what you're saying is that when you sell out for concerts from the April to October time period, that some portion of those sellouts are for concerts at Red Rocks. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. Carr, if you have any redirect?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So with that, Ms. Casillas, let me thank you for the testimony, and you may step down. So let's just go off the record for a moment. Inquire in the room. We're at 10:35. Plan is to go to 11. Ms. Wiesenthal, you in particular, you're okay? Okay. Is everybody else okay to keep going until 11?
Can we take like 3 minutes, Your Honor?
Okay. Why don't we take 5? It is 10:36. We'll be back on the record at 10:41.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Sorry, we were just back on the record again for that last part. Yeah, I know. I won't worry about it. Looks like everybody's ready to go. All right, we are back on the record in the Colorado Public Utilities Commission's proceeding number 23A-0552CP-EXT. So, Mr. Carr, you may call your next witness.
We would call Nick Casillas.
Okay, thank you. And welcome back, Mr. Casillas. Before you take the stand, please stand there, raise your right hand, answer the following question. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Great, thank you. Please be seated. When you're situated and ready to go, make sure the microphone is on, and then your name and spell it for the record.
Nicholas Casillas, Nicolas, name Casias.
Great, thank you. And you may proceed, Mr. Carr.
Mr. Casillas, how are you associated with 303 Party Bus LLC?
I'm the sole owner of it.
When did you start this business?
I registered a company in 2013. We started operating in 2014 10 years ago after we received a permit.
Okay. And when you say permit, you're talking about your common carrier license, correct?
We held a common carrier for 10 years, yeah.
Two things, just real quick. Number one, try not to speak over top of each other. And the other thing is, yes, you're a fast talker. So if you could try to slow down just a little bit. Sure. I know this is an unnatural environment and experience for you, but if you could just focus a little bit on trying to slow down.
When you began this company, were you the only person in the company?
Yeah.
So you handled...
Well, no, actually, no. I had this partner, Mason, Nas Beach. He left the company shortly afterward, less than 6 months.
So for a period of time, you were the sales guy, the driver, the customer service, the everything, correct?
Yes. No, not the driver. I didn't get my CDL until 2 years ago. So on the non-driving operations end, from the minute we did get our permit, common carrier permit in May of 2014, yes, I was doing everything except for the driving. And mechanical work too, so.
Okay. And as the company has grown, have you been able to hire other people to help with the different areas of the job?
Yes.
How many people does 303 Party Bus employ now?
I believe it's approximately 28. 26, 99 part-time drivers in Evelyn, as well as our mechanic Isaac. So that'd be about 28.
And we've heard about Isaac. You've been here all morning, correct?
Yeah.
And he's your in-house mechanic?
Yes.
And is he able to fix most of the problems that you run into?
Yeah. He's incredible when it comes to that because he knows our buses so well. And even say by the back of his hand. He can often know exactly what's wrong if somebody calls him just from hearing about it and knowing what bus it is.
And if for some reason he's unable to fix it, have you authorized the drivers or Isaac or anybody to go somewhere else to get the buses properly maintained?
Usually he'll call me or he'll call another driver and he'll go switch it out right away because the time frame is pretty short. They'll be in the event and we can't risk not being able to get them home. So sometimes we will hold one back just in case something goes. Hold one back.
When you say hold one back, you mean even if you've got other people out on luxury rides or whatever, you keep something in the barn in case you need to save somebody?
What I mean specifically is we...
Wait till I finish asking questions before you start answering. Okay, go ahead.
What I mean is we carry 10 buses, which is more than the majority of companies in town, specifically probably for that reason. So there's always extra, just in case anything does go wrong. Although we do sell out quite a bit. I'm just saying for the nights we don't sell out.
And what I was getting at, though, is if there's a repair that Isaac can't do, have you authorized people to make sure that it gets done properly wherever it needs to be done?
Cost has never been an issue when it came to fixing it correctly.
And is that because safety is the number one priority when you're driving other people around?
Yeah, our livelihood, it's something I take very seriously. Like Blair, I was pretty touched hearing him speak, to be honest, because I share that same vision. I didn't lose anybody like he did. However, I believe every day in the back of my mind how important it is.
And as your business has grown, what other steps have you taken to make sure that you can continue to run it smoothly and have a good operation?
I think updating the buses is a huge one. The mechanical issues as well as interiors as well. I always train our drivers constantly about safety as well. There's certain things that I notice from being a driver now that I don't love, and I want to pass on to the other drivers. If it happens, please limit their ability to do that. An example of that would be talking to the driver on the road. I hate it once I tell my passengers once the bus is moving, please don't come talk to me. I got one mission, and that's to get us there safely. You don't want to hear that you have to go to the bathroom or you standing up there and...
So you do what you can to avoid distractions for yourself and your other drivers. And do you do these trainings with your drivers on a regular basis?
Yes.
And if someone new is brought on, do you meet with them and kind of run over a checklist of things to do? Wait till I finish. And it's not normal how we usually converse, so I understand, but it doesn't work when somebody's writing down everything we're saying. So go ahead.
Yeah, we do. We train everybody. It doesn't feel like work when I'm doing it. It feels like a necessity.
I'm going to hand you a couple exhibits and go over these with you if that's okay.
Yeah.
First is exhibit 201, and I believe some used at the last hearing. I love it.
That's just fine. That's the way I think it should be done. So just for clarity's sake, to the extent you believe any exhibits were offered and admitted last time, let's just do it again here. give me the opportunity to rule on the request for admission. So go ahead.
Can you, Mr. Casillas, can you explain what Exhibit 201 is?
Yeah. This is where we stand in Google rankings and the ability to find us online through Google.
How did you prepare this exhibit?
Yes, I did.
How did you prepare it?
I went into incognito browser and I searched Party Bus just for this top page one, just Party Bus.
Okay. And what does this exhibit show?
It shows the paid ads on top, the very top one that says Forever Party Bus. And then below it is the organic unpaid searches. And the difference between that is top one of the three was paid for, bottom three were not paid for.
So this shows that you're number 2
Yeah.
In the search, is that correct?
When I've searched them before, for this one, yes. When I've searched before, we often come up 1 or 2. Every time I've searched over the last 10 years. Not the whole time. More recently, probably about 5 years ago, as we became busier.
Do you pay for advertising on Google or otherwise?
We currently do not. Over the entire 10-year period that brought us all the business that we explored in the last exhibit, we've only paid for advertising for 3 months out of that 10 years.
How do customers find you?
Organically and word of mouth. So organically, meaning through Google.
So they do searches, but they don't find your paid ad. They find your website because it's there because of...
Well, with the exception of 3 months, we've never paid for advertising.
Let me just ask a question for clarification on 201. I see on the first page, towards the top, I see the word sponsored. And I'm assuming that means that search results below that were the entities that are listed paid for that placement. Am I understanding that correctly?
Just the top one, Your Honor.
Okay, so that's Forever Party Bus. That's the only one in this exhibit that is quote-unquote sponsored or paid for?
Correct. And
then, so starting with Denver Party Bus Rentals, all of those are not paid for?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the point of that is that you've been around long enough, and you've got enough reviews, and Google ranks you based on your relevance in your city. That's how they determine these rankings below the paid one. They're always going to take paid one and put it at the top. Below that, it's respect in your industry when it comes to reviews, how long you've been around. It's a really big deal.
Understood. So I see handwriting starting about the middle. I see paid ads in a line, and unpaid organic search, and then there's more writing on the right beside those two. Is that your handwriting?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
That was going to be my next question. And on the next page, second and third page, all the handwriting on here is your writing?
Yeah, correct.
And is the amount or the words in quotes, is that what search was performed in order to come up with these results? And do page 2 and 3 essentially do the same thing as page 1 but with different search terms?
Correct. I think it's important to point out that the second page says Party Bus to Red Rocks. We came up second or third.
Okay, and then on the third page is when you searched Party Bus in Denver, and you show up first there. Is that correct?
Yeah. So these are location based. So where Google has us located, we come up first.
And other than the writing on here, is the printout fair and accurate of what showed up on the internet searches?
Yes.
And the writing is all of your handwriting on these.
That's correct.
And that's just further explanation as to what it was, so someone can understand what they're looking for. Yeah. Your Honor, I would move for the admission of.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
201 is admitted.
Do you have many repeat customers, Mr. Casillas?
Yes.
Do you keep track of that in any way, shape, or form?
No, it's more because of the bandwidth issue, and there's so many.
Okay. Hey, do you recognize the same names, the same people when they're
Yeah.
working with you?
I know a lot of people in Denver, and in my communities, I'm always the one referred to anytime somebody needs a ride anywhere.
And you started your company as a party bus company instead of a charter bus company, correct?
Correct.
And why did you do that?
Truthfully, I don't remember because it's been so long.
Okay. Do you continue to make the buses that you get party buses, or do you convert any to charter buses?
Just party buses, all 10.
And why do you run party buses?
I believe it's a different experience than charter buses. And I've seen that firsthand many times last night, just how different of an experience it is. And I prefer the experience of friends and communities or strangers coming together and bonding. And I would personally never ride a charter bus to Red Rocks or to any concert that I cared about going to.
Do you believe it's a more social experience?
Yes, I do.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. The last one I rode, I saw people talking who would have no business speaking otherwise in the everyday world, where we kind of keep our faces on our phones. I saw, I don't know how relevant it is, strangers talking to strangers inspires me, and it brings communities together, and it gives people some of the best nights of their year.
And did you feel that there was a need for this in the community with a party bus specifically?
Yeah, I had a really big experience that I feel probably changed my life, and I wanted to be a part of that and provide that. And it was one night in August 2012 when I went to a Mumford & Sons concert with my friends. And that memory is still so vivid in my mind. It's something I think about a lot. I hear one of their songs, and I still think about it.
You wanted to try to give that experience to other people.
Yeah, I did. It was a long time ago. Yeah, I did.
I believe that your sales have shown that in fact there is a need for this type of bus system or party bus system in the Denver metro area.
Yeah, absolutely. We've continued to grow year after year since COVID. In my opinion, even we can't meet demand.
And do you know approximately how often you have to turn people away?
I do not. I do know that if we had more buses, we could sell them. The main reason we don't is cost of insurance and managing more drivers. There's a lot of risk for a company essentially ran by 3 people.
And if you expanded your permit, do you believe you'd be able to meet some additional need?
Yes, however, I do not feel that we would ever be able to meet the complete need. It would give us the option, even if we added buses, it still wouldn't need.
I know the court wanted to stop at 11. Do you want me to
Off the record for a second. So 11. Why don't we let's go back on the record. So we'll be in recess until it's going to be flexible. Like I said, there's another hearing in here that starts at 11:30. At 12. Okay, right. You're off the record. Yeah. Well, why don't we stay off the record just for a second? So. You're just going to have to be flexible and stay close by. This hearing often only goes 15 or 20 minutes. It just depends on how many respondents show up. If many do, it could be 2 hours. So I apologize for that, but that's just the reality of what we're dealing with. So why don't we take our lunch recess? And we'll be back on the record, as soon as reasonably possible after. I
just don't know how to stay close to give a telephone number, or what's the best way to do it?
Why don't you, that's a good idea. Let's check in at 12:30. We're ready to go. We'll start up again then. Do it that way. So we'll go back on the record. So we'll be in recess until 12:30 or as soon thereafter as the next hearing is complete. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, works for me.